focused on doing products that are number one, innovative. So we use a lot of cutting edge food technology to do the products that we do. Very taste first, and of course we do happen to make products that are better for you. Also being a mission-driven brand, we are environmentally conscious, and happy to share that in that context, we are already a plastic neutral brand for the last 2 years. But I think most importantly, people know us as the Pop Chips company.
Great. Thanks so much, Anish. Abhilesh, we'll go with you next.
Hi, I'm Abhilesh Gupta. I'm an aeronautical engineer 2.5 decades ago, as per the education goes. Me, Ram, and Sandeep, we are neighbors here, and we wanted to do something in the healthcare. Ram is the subject matter expert. I am a user. Sandeep is a data guy. So, there was an inspiration from Art of Living guys. They came, they did the Nadi Pariksha. We cracked the whole thing, being engineers. And then rest is, 4.5 years journey, working with Apple, working with Google now, and, different good organization. About 700,000 odd downloads now of the app.
Great. Wonderful. Manas, we'll have you next.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Nice, for hosting me. Our brand name is Beyond Snack. We make the tastiest banana chips in the world. What laced it for potato chips, we are doing the same thing with banana chips.
Great. So there's this storyline that I see, coming here. Manas, you're talking about an analogy with Lay's, right? Anish, you're talking about the environment. You're talking about pop chips, and Abhilesh, you're just saying that we've cracked the Nadi code, right? So there's a story I see building up right here. When coming to the topic of Shark Tank, right, and your experience during the show, how did you prepare a very crisp and a concise storyline to pitch to the sharks, given a small period of time? And what was your thought process behind the scripting? Manas, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, sure. So the fundamental thought we had in our mind when we were going, we were working on our pitch was that, somehow we need to create some sort of, memory connect, right? Or some sort of, recollect, even if the Shark Tank, that buzz is go away, right? We need to create that hook. So that's why we thought of like doing something with that Kathakali, because, it is already there on the packet. And even if the people will be, when they see the product on the retail shelf, they'll be able to somehow immediately connect with us, and there is some business will happen, right? So that was the major thought of we thinking in the line of bringing at the Kathakali artist and something working out around it. The story then from there onwards, what we wanted to tell the audience is that generally is how we are different, right? We are not the normal banana chips which is available on that street side, right? This is something different. We are making it much more better, and there is a hygiene concept, and then there is a standardization concept. A lot of changes, whatever we are trying to tell audience in small bits and pieces. We were getting an opportunity to say it out loud through one medium, and that to a mass medium, right? So we thought of how to incorporate that, and that's how all this greasy Anna concept and the t-shirt tearing thing also came into existence. So it's just a matter of making that Kathakali and this greasy Anna concept, the whole thing work together well, and that's how it become people were able to recollect it even after the Shark Tank bus went away.
Great. Anish, what are your thoughts on this?
To be very honest, we didn't think too much. One of the things that we were very clear about is that we looked at Shark Tank as an opportunity to showcase the brand to the world, and very few brands at an early stage get this opportunity. So for us, it wasn't really a pitch. For us, we were very clear this is possibly the most kick-ass television ad that we need to make. Coincidentally, as founders, we are also getting an opportunity to kind of cast ourselves in the ad as well. So we just thought of kind of pulling off the best that was possible. So to be very honest, we didn't really think of it as a pitch. The idea was to be able to showcase the products, be able to communicate the functional benefits around the product, and build a brand narrative. So thankfully, we got 3 minutes to do a television ad, right? Very rarely do you get that opportunity.
Right. Abhilesh?
Yeah, I agree with Anish and Manas both. So basically, you're going on the mass medium for the first time, and there are two parts to this Shark Tank pitch. One is that initial 3 minutes that you will have to do, where you talk about yourself, you talk about the ecosystem that you are playing in, and about the technology that you've created, and the whole solution there, and it should all be encompassed in within 3 minutes. Should be able to communicate with the sharks who are sitting out there. And the best part of it was that it had to be in the local spoken Hindi language, which is where people connect with you, immediately. You cannot use English, or you cannot use pure Hindi also. So that's what we thought of. And this was like Anish mentioned, that it was the greatest opportunity to be on TV for 3 minutes. And so we wanted to do our best. Shark Tank also, the Sony TV also helped us. A couple of days, we had training sessions with them, where they made us practice this pitch. So it had to be crisp and clear. Within 3 minutes, everything had to be delivered. So that's what we did.
Wonderful. So there's a lot of rehearsals that you guys went through to
Everybody
get
will
yourself
go through
camera
that.
ready.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you said that this wasn't a pitch for you guys, right? But then you were talking about your business, you were talking about your enterprise, and there are multiple aspects to it, right? You have the market opportunity that you're addressing. You're mentioning the problem that you're going through. What are your technologies? What are your product offerings? And there are multiple different elements to a business, right? While pitching to the investor, how would you weigh, which aspect of your business should get more time, or which one should be, a less priority item, or you would weigh it equally? Do you time yourself in those 3 minutes? How did you go about that, Abhilesh?
So basically, our focus was, see, we are doing something which was ancient Indian art of health assessment science, and that was the key point, that we have been able to digitize it, and that was the key message that we wanted to send out. But at the same time, where does it work? How it is implied? What is Ayurveda? What is Kaph Pitta Vata? So we started introducing ourselves as Kaph Pitta Vata, explain the Kaph Pitta Vata, explain the inherent balance of these, and then explain the current imbalance of these. So that was the main key focus point of, was the solution first. Other aspects of business or whatever, it. So like I said, there are two parts to the pitch in Shark Tank. One is that 3 minutes pitch, and after that your dialogue opens up with the sharks. So then you go in details, explain everything else around it.
Right. Anish, what about you? Considering you started with oil shots, my reaction was gross, but what was your thought about it?
So to be very honest, I think the first few seconds is really about getting somebody's attention with something outrageous altogether, right? And that's possibly the best way of getting somebody's attention. But then if you look at the various layers that possibly used, and I hate calling the pitch, to be very honest. I think for me it's an ad, right? So I'm going to call it an ad. So for me, I think what was most important is to communicate why we are doing what, right? And that is what we put out upfront, right? I think one of the biggest things that we have to make sure is that people understand the fundamental motivation behind starting this business, what that is for us. Then obviously we followed it up by talking about the how of the entire problem statement that we're trying to solve for, in terms of the kind of technology that we use, and thereafter we possibly spoke about the what, and the what is the products that we make, which is the popped potato chips, which happen to have 50% less fat, the various functional benefits going into the dips, and we also spoke about our chocolates there, I think, very very briefly. But yeah, to be very honest, prioritization was very very clearly on the basis of why, what, why, how, and then the what.
Right. Manas, what about you?
So, frankly speaking, see, when you're talking to an audience or when you're talking to an investor, right, you only have a handful of things to tell them, right? And it is depending on the prioritizing, right, which one is more important and which one is less important, right? And you may be having 10 different USPs, right? But what sells more and what matters to the consumers, and more importantly, what matters to the people who are listening, right? That is where that thought process will guide you towards coming up with a better structuring of your what you want to communicate to the investors, right? So look at what's more important in your business, and that's you just need to communicate that's the only thing.
Right, right. So just taking this a little further, you had an element of theatrics in it, right? When you were enacting Greasy Anna. Whereas Abhilesh, you had data to back, so many downloads, so many users, right? So how would you show this kind of a unique product offering? Abhilesh, you are an app-based platform ultimately. So I guess that is important for you, right? At what stage did you decide that this is what we need to talk about more than just introducing or enacting yourselves as the three doshas,
So theatrics couldn't have come into what solution that we have. There is no physical product that we make. It's a virtual, virtual solution that we are into that space. So when it comes to metrics, it was only everything had to do around the technology as well as the number of downloads or the impact that we are making. So basis that only we sort of decided that this is how we are going to go and present in the beginning. And again, we are also at the same time educating all the TV audience about Ayurveda, the Nadi Pariksha, so there was so much of it going on. Not only we were talking to the sharks, but we are also talking about our product there. So that's the approach we took.
Right. Anish has mentioned that this was more of an advertisement for Tags Food, right? And you're talking about that same. Manas, was it the same for you when you were preparing your script, that your audience is not just the sharks, but also the larger audience who's viewing it?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So aligned with the same point that Anish also mentioned, right? He put it in the right way, that this is a best ad possible, and that you get a chance to present it for 3 minutes. So that's what. So the question is that what's more important, right? And then how you are going to, how you are going to present it. That will give you the answer to that, right? In what Abhilesh was saying, that in theatrics wouldn't work in his case. He knows what works on that case based on his business. Similarly, everybody knows what works well for them, and they do something similar, something around it.
Right. Wonderful. So Anish, you spoke about Tags Food being the only pop chips brand, right? But as a technology which is still nascent in India, which is not being used by a lot of companies, right? The relatability factor to pop chips is something which may be less. But how do you build an emotional connect with the investor? After all, it is about storytelling, right? So how does your story build that emotional connect and they would want to invest in your company?
So Aarohana, allow me to take a step back and possibly I'm going to allude to what we were discussing in the previous question also that you asked to all of us. My view on building a business and raising capital is as follows, right? I think if you have a great product, if you have a great brand, if you have a good business, investors will line up, right? They will show up. We have always been fundamentally clear about the fact that as long as we are consumer first, as long as we are product first, that is possibly something that matters over and above everything else, right? And that's possibly one of the key reasons why I said, for us it was an ad. The sharks happened to be there, for us, and for us it was an opportunity where we were doing an ad, but then yes, we were engaging the sharks as well, right? It's Shark Tank after all. Continuing on the same thread, my theory on this is as follows, right? That why should you even have an emotional connect with the investors, right? I think the emotional connect needs to be built with the consumer, right? About the product, about the brand, about the mission, about the vision with which you have set out with. And I think smart investors will inherently see that automatically. And hence needing to build an emotional relationship or present the emotional aspect to the investor, in my view, doesn't make a lot of sense, right? I think you will need to sell emotionally to an investor only if you do not have confidence adequate enough in the product, in the business, in the brand that you build. So that's my very quick take on it. That I think if you focus on the consumer, if you focus on the business, investments will come, and there is no need to build a emotional connect, so to say. And I think that is why somebody like Abhilesh decided to go with numbers, because he had hard facts, hard data in terms of the kind of traction that they've been able to build and demonstrate. Investors will show up.
Right. So then, Anish, let me take a little further of what you said, right? What is the kind of storytelling that you would put out to an investor about your brand? What would be the tonality of it? What would be your focuses, right? Besides Shark Tank, if you're pitching to an investor, what would your storyline look like?
Sure. So I think while pitching to investors, what is extremely important is what is the motivation with which the investor is wanting to come on board and join your journey, right? So there are certain investors who possibly come in with a much longer term view and have a patient capital horizon, and their return expectations are different from another set of investors who are possibly looking at rapid growth. I think the whole process of pitching starts with really understanding what is the true motivation with which an investor is possibly going to be evaluating this opportunity, and whether that investor is the right investor for you at all.
Correct.
I think the process starts there, followed by and I think everybody has a very different way of approaching this, and I'm sure Manas and Abhilesh will also chime in and add value to this. I think everybody has a very different approach. We believe in speaking about the longer term vision, the kind of mission that we are on, and how we foresee the future, right? Because at the end of the day, we are not just a pop chips company. We are trying to transform the whole food ecosystem by bringing to the fore a lot of cutting edge food technology. So I think talking about the future is something that every investor at any given point in time would be interested in. How large is the opportunity is something which is going to be of interest to investors. And thereafter, in my view, again, our personal view is that metrics speak better than anything else. And even when it comes to metrics, we tend to focus on lead indicators in the business, stay away from any kind of vanity indicators. I love to show off my P&L more than anything else. So growing up as a child, in school, I never had fancy report cards, but I pride my P&Ls today, and I think they are my report cards. So I think that's something that I love showing off in an investor conversation.
Sounds great. Manas, what do you have to add to this?
Yeah, so both are different way of presenting. For an investor, for a consumer, or basically if you are in a Shark Tank, you're presenting your product, right? But when in front of an investor, you are presenting your business and as an organization, or your larger vision, and where exactly you are going to stand after 5 years or 10 years, or what exactly you are building, right? This is the fundamental difference when you are pitching it to an investor and when you are pitching it to when you are doing a Shark Tank pitch. Yes, I again 100% aligned with that point. Anish was saying that the sharks happen to be there, right? Which is true. You are fundamentally pitching in that Shark Tank event. You are pitching it to the consumers primarily. That this is an event this is going to get aired in front of the mass audience, and the audience is not just that sharks or the panels who are sitting over there, right? So the fundamental difference is this: you're talking more about business, and you're talking more about a product or what you have right now as an offering is in a Shark Tank kind of environment.
Right. Abhilesh, your thoughts?
So exactly the same. And again, pitching or storytelling depends on the type of investors or the opportunity that you have to present. So, and also at what stage you are. So if you are going into a Shark Tank, like Anish mentioned or Manas mentioned, that it's product pitching. You're more pitching of, about the product, because you're not only pitching to the sharks there who are sitting there, but also to the TV audience there. Whereas, see, in our case, there are different stages to a startup. You're raising money for pre-seed, then you have a different goal there. Then you are raising money for seed. Then you have, so you start with the acquisition to engagement to retention. Then you get into the monetization. So it depends on what type of investor, for what purpose you are pitching, and that's how the storylines are formed for us. And also depends on who's sitting on the other side now. What sort of investments that they have. Some investors don't want you to talk about the exit early. Some investors like that how do I get my exit? So all that you'll have to do your own research at the back end, and create your story accordingly. And it'll always vary from investor to investor. pitch to pitch, you will have to tell your story very different,
Right.
depending
right,
on the person that you're pitching.
Right. So it's the big picture. It depends on who you're pitching at what stage are your companies.
Correct.
So it's a mix of a lot of elements that we don't get to see necessarily on Shark Tank, but these are what we
Correct.
remember while pitching to an investor. Great. So just before we move forward and come back to the Shark Tank, as a platform, right? How has Shark Tank helped you guys advertise your product? Can you tell us the difference, which is pre-Shark Tank and post-Shark Tank, in terms of your sale, in terms of your brand visibility? Manas, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, the difference between pre-Shark Tank and post-Shark Tank is that we were a local brand. Now maybe we can call a part national brand in which more people know about our brand. At least people started recognizing, hey, wo Shark Tank wala, wo chips, wo Shark Tank ka chips hai, something like that. Some connect we have managed to establish, and that is the most important aspect, right? More than anything else, right? We were earlier nobody knew about a brand called Beyond Snack. Now at least some people know that. Now so that is the biggest difference of that. Of course, sales wise, of course there will be increment, right? More people are watching a Shark Tank kind of an event. I mean, nationwide people are watching. They all wanted to try it out, and of course, there is a sales surge definitely is tag along with that. Along with that, not only growth in terms of sale, growth as an organization perspective as well, right? More industry in terms of, since the company was less known to a lot of people, then people will be skeptical. Now at least they know that okay, these people could do something. Okay, let me also be part of that. So growth not only in terms of sales or in terms of marketing, but overall as an organization perspective, this Shark Tank as an event really helped Beyond Snacks a lot.
Right. Anish, what about you?
His smile tells you all.
Yeah, I think there's a video lag though. And while a smile is worth 1,000 words, Anish, but still we'd like to hear from you.
So I'll tell you what hasn't changed, right? And I know a lot of people want to hear about what has changed. I'll tell you what hasn't changed for us. We were consumer first before Shark Tank. We were consumer first even now. I think the only thing that we continue to chase is a lot of consumer love. We were always product first. We always wanted to genuinely bring about a lot of innovation, and none of that has changed. Yes, growth mattered to us, but we were always at any given point in time also profitability focused, right? So some of those things haven't changed. We used to look at ourselves as a small business before Shark Tank, and I think we continue to look at ourselves as a small business even today, right? To be very honest. The biggest thing that has possibly now changed is that thanks to Shark Tank, we got so much visibility, we got so much consumer love. Maybe the number one thing that has changed for us is that we feel added responsibility of living up to possibly many, many more expectations to it, right? One of my biggest successes, I would say, as a brand, after Shark Tank is not just reflective in my sales numbers. We actually had 5,200 of our own consumers who came on board and invested in the company because we wanted to craft that opportunity for them to become a part of the wealth creation journey as well. I think that is the biggest form of validation that we could have possibly received. And as an entrepreneur over the last 10 years, this is my second venture. I've possibly raised millions of dollars before this as well. But I think this was the most satisfactory moment, where we had 5,200 of our consumers coming on board and potentially investing in the company at such an early stage. So yes, I think what has changed is that we feel a lot more responsible now to repay back the kind of consumer love that we received. Yes, of course, business has grown, right? I think in the last 12 months, we've grown 9 times. But most importantly, we've grown 9 times in the last 12 months. But we managed to reduce our cash burn to virtually negligible, right? So we are on the verge of becoming an EBITDA positive company, right? So I think that's been the scale of growth. But then I think the biggest thing fundamentally that has changed for us is that we feel a lot more responsible now. I think we owe back that much more to our consumers and our well-wishers, all of us.
Wonderful. So then you do become a consumer first at all times.
At all times. At all times.
Yes, yes. Abhilash, what about you?
So, after the show was telecasted, so 9:30, it was episode 31. I still remember. Our this thing started to come at 9:30. 9:40, our servers crashed. First thing, while a lot of relatives, friends, and everybody was calling me on my mobile, but my developers were saying, the programmers, the backend people, that sir, it has crashed. There were about 200,000 hits on our server for the downloads that time, and we were a very small company. I mean, while we have global aspirations and everything, and we do work with a lot of countries, but before the Shark Tank was shot on in October month. So that time we had 125,000 downloads, and it was telecasted in the end of January for at least our show. We had about 170 odd thousand downloads by then. Today we have crossed 750,000 downloads. One. So that is something. And again, we are an app company, mobile app companies, or tech driven. So for us, these are the metrics that we look at. Then again, being a tech company, we do a lot of research. A lot of work has to be done in the field that we are working in. Earlier, we were chasing institutions, a lot of institutions, to get our validations done, get our certifications, etc. done. Now these institutions came to us. We are very happy. We are working with a lot of institutions there. They were international companies who saw this, and they were interested in us. So dialogues are going on. Earlier we were chasing investors. Right now, I mean, it's other way around. We don't need it right now, but there are offers that we have in the same ecosystem, Ayurvedic ecosystem. The wellness companies are plenty in India. It's about $14 billion this year. So all of those companies are aware about us. Ayurvedam, probably we are not very sure, but might have become a brand now. By now, that's what we feel, that people do recognize Ayurvedam, or there is something like this in the industry. So yes, a lot has changed for us. While I will stick to the Anish's line that we still remain the same, same passion, same everything what we're trying to derive. But yes, on the front end, a lot of things have changed for us.
Right.
And we got the opportunity to fix our servers, to fix because once you are in the on Twitter, there was this campaign going on at the same time. Somebody made a YouTube video, put it on YouTube against us. So many things were there. So we were understanding exactly what happens when you go in front of on a TV, or a billion people, a billion Indians, then how the reactions can come. So we are now much better prepared as a company. As a technology also, everything is much more better, and now we are more feel more responsible for what we are doing today,
That's wonderful.
including data safety and everything, because we are in the health space.
Totally. I think it also opened a few opportunities for the consumers or the audience, to think about this. Can banana chips ever be produced in a standardized way, in a hygienic manner, right? Can Ayurveda be concised and fit into an application, right? Can potato chips be anything except Lay's as well, right? So it was an opening of opportunities for consumers, for audiences as well, who wouldn't think about it or wouldn't be introduced to such brands before. So wonderful. Coming back to your pitch again with the sharks, right? There were a lot of questions that were happening, some with an intention to actually genuinely seek information, some which had a sarcastic element to it, and which was somewhat humorous also. But all of these things, while pitching to an investor, right? How does an entrepreneur remain on the top of it? How does an entrepreneur build a response strategy, right? So that you don't give away too much, or you're answering the question that has been asked to. You don't feel, you don't break out into cold sweats, right? There are multiple things that can happen at that moment. So how does an entrepreneur deal with these things? Anish, what would be your advice?
So, I think it's not really a pressure cooker situation, to be very honest. I think if you know your business well enough, if you're clear enough about where you're headed and what you're looking at achieving, it's not really a pressure cooker situation. What I really loved about being in the tank is that whole experience of being able to interact with 5 experienced entrepreneurs in one go, and it was an exhilarating experience, to be very honest, right? And while you might, the audience might have lapped up the sarcasm element about it a few times, I'll tell you the most fun part about actually the whole, the business pitch part of it, right? I think the most fun part of it is that being entrepreneurs themselves, all the sharks are extremely direct, right? They don't sugarcoat their responses, right? They don't feel the compelling need to drop an argument just because they feel it is futile, right? I think. So in that context, number one, while the eventual dramatized version that you see on television maybe projects it as a pressure cooker situation, I my honest take on this is I don't think it's a pressure cooker situation, right? And as long as you understand your business, the nuts and bolts behind it well enough, you'll just sail through. And again, the sharks being entrepreneurs themselves, trust me, the amount of humility and the amount of empathy that you also receive, from their end, is very heartwarming. So maybe what didn't come across as much is the element of camaraderie, or the support or the empathy that the sharks also show towards the entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
So just wanted to highlight that as well. So it's not really a pressure cooker situation, right? So don't walk into the tank thinking, oh, ab kya hoga, right? It's a nice, comfortable place to be.
Right.
As long
right,
as you're looking to learn and focus on the right things.
Great. That's so good to know. Manas, what do you have to add to this? Was your experience any different?
Yeah, there is no. So I was just answering direct to that question. There is a terminology that you use. There is a response strategy. There is no response strategy. Irrespective of your pitching to an investor, you generate a curiosity, right? Your product is something different, and you do something different, and you are building something different. Okay, that generates a curiosity, and that curiosity will lead to certain questions, right? And majority of the time, it is not a question that they are asking with, okay, let me ask this guy a question so that I'll put him in in a difficult situation. No, it's basically they wanted to quench that curiosity that came about our business. And most of the time we know what they are asking, or what is the answer to that question, right? So there is no response strategy. It is just that you just answering about your business, or you are just saying that story about your business, or you are just talking about the journey that you have been through and what exactly your plan. So so there is it's not a Q&A session. Basically, it's more of an understanding about what is happening with the business, so that whether I can be a part of that business. This is the thought that they have with them.
Right. So it's a genuine discussion, unlike what we see, with the musics and with the lapses that are added to it.
If that is not there, we won't be having this session of Shark Tank, right? That is the reason why it is more gripping, right? Some excitement should be there. Otherwise, it will be so boring. The actual pitch would be somewhere 1 hour, 15 minutes. If you show that 1 hour, 15 minutes pitch, people will say that, okay, how much time they will lag this conversation. Yeah, people will think it that way, right? And this is much more. This is concise and exciting, right? People wanted to come back and watch it again and again because of those musics.
Right. So that's the good part that has been taken care of by the Sony. You guys have to worry only about your business. Abhilash, what about you? How was it for you guys?
So I agree with Anish. It is not a pressure cooker situation there at all. Whoever is aspiring to go on Shark Tank, message for all of them. Very nice people. In fact, after our initial 3 minute pitch, sharks actually stood up and clapped. And then it was very easy, very comfortable. Like Manas is saying, we spent more than an hour inside. Very interactive. If you're not able to answer some question, it's okay. You say, I don't have the answer there. So, but like, on the TV, the way it was projected, the way the entire show has come out is that, there's this pressure cooker situation. People are sweating there. People are giving away more equity than they would have. And be very firm. You say no, because and in our case, we already had existing investors behind us. So we couldn't have given away anything. And it's a very comfortable situation. All sharks are very, very humble, very nice, but only thing where you can understand 1 hour, 15 minutes when it is squeezed into, 11 minutes. And they have to bring in all those elements, with music and with all that drama and tension and all that. But it is not like that. So whoever is planning to go to Shark or got selected in the season 2, please be very comfortable. Very nice people in there.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. With that, to all our audiences, you can start your question and answers. Please put them in the question and answers box, and we'll continue with my questions that I have. There are so many. But Anish, again, coming back to your brand, right? You present Tag Z or Tags as a Gen Z brand, right? When you're having such a defined target audience for your brand, right? I felt as a millennial that, oh, am I allowed to try it, right? What if as a millennial I like it? But when you're pitching to an investor beyond Shark Tank also, right? How does this specifically determining your target audience to a very niche category help in your fundraising strategy? I think there's a video lag at my end.
Number one, allow me to So Arunima, allow me to quickly clarify on this. We are a Gen Z brand. Okay. So if Tags were a person, Tags is possibly between the age bracket of 19 to 25. But that doesn't mean that it can be consumed only by people who are in that age bracket. Incidentally, even today, more than 60% of our consumption ends up coming from age brackets above the age group of 25 years, right? The Tags happens to be a Gen Z brand, right? Doesn't mean at all that only Gen Z folks can consume a brand and our products. And pardon me if I sound a little off track here, but then to be honest, we are building a brand which has a certain personality for a certain kind of consumers. And we are not doing this because we want to raise money or we want to please investors or be investor friendly, right? So it's not part of our fundraising strategy at all, to be very honest. This is the business that we are in, right? We are in the business of snacking. We focus on innovation. We have a brand personality which is very Gen Z. And this is because we believe what the consumer is looking for, not because investors are going to be looking at something like this. So, more often than not, these are things that we're doing because this is the business that we are in, right? It might work for a few investors. It may not work for a lot of them, and which is absolutely fine because we are not in the business of raising money. We are in the business of crafting snacking experiences. We are in the business of helping urban consumers eat fitter. We are in the business of helping urban consumers lead a more active lifestyle, right? And that's what we are passionate about. That's the business, right? Works for investors, well and good. Doesn't work for them, it's all right. It's this is all right, right? Yes, it's a targeted market that we're focusing on. So we are honest in admitting that we're possibly not a Bharat product, right? We are a product which is targeting India, which is the top 30-40 million households in the country, and we're possibly targeting market outside of India, right? And we believe that's large enough for our ambitions that we have, right? And we are doing that because we believe that's a turf that we can defend, right? I fully understand and recognize that we cannot possibly take on a brand like Lay's head on, right? We don't have any fundamental strength to be able to do that. So we've defined a very clear, segmented, focused target market, and we want to chase down that, build a strong business with that, and own that space. So again, that's something which might work for a few investors, may not work with a lot of them, which is absolutely fine, but then that's our business.
Wonderful, wonderful. Abhilash, for you, right? Again, coming back to the Shark Tank pitch, we saw that you saw interest from Aman Gupta of Boat, right, which is also a tech company primarily. How important do you think is it for the investor to be in the same space as you, or is there the resonation point is higher with that case, right? What are your thoughts on this?
So first of all, before going in, we knew that the sharks that we have to target. And for Ayurvedam, right now the app works on the mobile phone camera. Now we are experimenting actually with creating prototypes where it works with the oximeter. We are just the announcement will come out very soon. We have tied up with BPL Medical Technologies, so it will work with the oximeters. It will work with the variables. It will work with the earpods, many things, because there is blood flow here. Wherever there is blood flow, and there is a sensor, I can use the I mean that resource to do our assessment and come up with the solution there. So for us, this was a target. Aman was a target, honestly speaking, because he is very big in variable. I think that time when we went in, he was fifth largest. Boat was the fifth largest in the world, and today I think they are third largest in the world. So absolutely, there was this very clear synergy there that we saw, and I mean it resonates very well for a company like ours.
Right. Let's say a what if scenario, right? What if Aman wouldn't have shown interest in Ayurveda?
We were still okay. See, we were trying to get in touch with him before that itself. A lot of other companies in wearable space are we were working with them. It was one thing that the product line what they have is affordable. A lot of people use it. So we were very sure that once he comes to know about this technology, he would say yes. And in fact, what you saw is 12 minutes version or 11 minutes version. But Aman had started showing, his interest right from the middle of the pitch, right from 30th minute onwards. So we then, targeted him very well. But what if he didn't say yes? We would have walked out. I mean, if there's nobody, I mean, many people did that. Not every investor, every pitch that you make, you get investments. So that would have been just fine.
Right. Right. Manas, again, we've touched on this point briefly, but I would like to ask you to emphasize a little bit more, especially for the benefit of our audience, right? Having known you also for some time, the whole presentation, from the time that you walked in with the Kathakali dancer, with a trolley of bananas and banana chips, right? And then your own stint that you performed. How was that experience for you, and what would you say, how much importance do such visuals, such elaborate emotive performances play in conveying your brand story?
It's difficult to generalize it, frankly, Arnima, because see, for our product, it really worked, right? Because that was that was matching, right? It's a food product, and then the food product along with some sort of animation was creating some hooks in the people's mind, and then we managed to drive drive on that hook, right? So in our product, that's we thought that would have been the best way of presenting in front of the large audience. But it is difficult to generalize that, okay, always should be having some sort of theatrics or an animated kind of a pitch will always work. No, not necessary. Maybe a little more calmer version, or a little more authentic, I don't know, I'm just thinking on the Ayurveda standpoint, it would be this kind of an animation would have put that into a very odd situation, right? Instead, much more genuine would be something else, right? So in our case it worked, but we cannot just go ahead and craft a pitch which is generic. Okay, Beyond Snack could do that, then this could work on my business also, and let me also craft something like animated. No, what works for well, I mean, who the business owner himself will be knowing, that the founder himself or the director himself will be knowing, right, what works for them, because they literally live that business, right? So difficult to generalize, but yeah, I mean, depending on your business, what thesis and your business thesis, what works, you yourself know that. Based on that, you craft a story and present that story in the most genuine way possible.
Right,
that is the
right.
catch over here.
So there's no one size fits all approach here. You have to figure it out, multiple iterations.
Yeah, difficult. Not multiple iteration. Basically, the story that you're going to say, right? You know the story of your business, and what works for to present that story well in front of a larger audience. That also somewhere. I mean, you just need to think through it, and maybe you will get a better answer.
So was Greasy Anna with you from day one, since you started auditioning for Shark Tank and put down your first version of your script?
Story. Yeah, the story that we wanted to say, in front of the large audience was, hey, this is a better banana chips comparing to the one which is available out there in the market. Now from that, we know that, okay, this is a comparison between an existing banana chips and our banana chips. And when we start thinking in that way, we know that, okay, let me show a exaggerated version of what is happening currently. And then on contrast to that, how we are different, right? So that's how we arrived at that situation. So that's what our story was, that, and it worked in that way. So basically your story is the best way to design your pitch, right? What is the story of your business, and start working on that particular story. You will get a best way to present that in front of the customer.
Right. So get your key elements, get your core messaging clear, and then weave a story around it. Use different elements that suits your pitch.
Yes.
Wonderful.
The story will evolve. You like the first 2 points is there, then the story will automatically evolve.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna open the floor for Q&A. We have one question here. Let me start with taking the easiest one here, which is, how did you handle the emotions, the butterflies in your stomach while presenting? Were there any at all, Manas?
Yeah, I think I'm the best person to answer that question, maybe, because in my case, my Hindi was really bad. And I literally had to by heart the whole, whatever that Hindi that I was saying. But, halfway through I fumbled. I mean, I forgot that it was complete blackout. So it was not butterflies. I think something big in my stomach that, the whole, and people were, you might have seen that, right? In that video, right? People were asking the investors were asking, do you want water, or you take your time? Because I completely forgot the whole story. Right, there is no solution for that. You just just somehow figure it out or move on. There is no solution for that. It will happen. If it happens, then you can't help it.
Right. So in a situation like this, right, if language was a concern, right, were you given a chance to maybe switch back to English or be more comfortable with your own native language? How did you overcome that?
The instinct, of course, is switching back to that comfortable language for both the parties, right? And I was switching back to that English, and that's not a problem. But what I'm saying is that, general, the television is Sony, and the mass audience is also Hindi speaking people. Like, so we also want our story to be communicated to all the audience, right? We don't want to miss out on anyone. So if Hindi is the best, then be it. I mean, we'll do that. Yeah. So we'll do that, and we'll make a story in Hindi itself. That's what that's what we are here for, right? So
great. Yeah. Anish, what about you? We can't see you on screen, but hopefully you're still around.
I'm absolutely. I just switched off the video because I realized I think I'm struggling with the Wi-Fi a little bit. No butterflies in the stomach at all. To be very honest. Luckily, that and I know a lot of people ask this kind of a question, and how to hack Shark Tank. I really don't think there are those 101 ways to hack Shark Tank. Okay, I think being authentic, being original is extremely important. Being yourself is extremely important, right? And possibly we never butterflies in the stomach or any kind of nervousness is simply because what you saw on television is what we are, right? I think our simple plan was we didn't want to be anything that we are not, right? Thankfully for both me and Sagar, Hindi is not a language that we are uncomfortable with. But to be very honest, even we surprised ourselves with the kind of Hindi that we managed to speak, right? Given the fact that I've been in Bangalore for the last 12 years and I've been in the southern part of the country for almost 15 years, but I kind of really surprised myself. It was good fun. So I don't think there is any need for anybody to feel butterflies in the stomach as long as you are being yourself, right? Being original, being authentic, and walk into the tank, not thinking of it as a pressure cooker situation. As I said, right? It's basically 5 other entrepreneurs who possibly done the same mistakes that you have, that you are doing right now, that's it. Yeah.
Right. Abhilash, what about you?
So it's it's about public speaking basically. Everywhere, even if you are addressing a crowd of 20 people within your company itself, even being the head of the organization, you do have that initial comes there. So same thing with us. When we entered, with us, there was a little funny thing, because we were eating lunch somewhere, and all of a sudden we got called in, and we ran, and then they are preparing us, putting everything on us, and then ushered into the tank. So yes, there's this initial few seconds that you are, and then you are all of a sudden getting into a big set there. You're trying to absorb everything that is around there, and five people are sitting right in front of you that you are going to present to. So yes, initial first minute, almost, you are nervous. Everybody gets to that situation when you are ushered into a unknown place all of a sudden. But then again, I repeat, the sharks are very nice. I mean, the ones that we faced, they paced us down. They were okay, even if we were making mistakes. They gave us a chance to repeat if we were not answering anything properly. So Manas's thing, probably because Sony TV wanted to add some masala to this thing, so probably. But many pitches, many people failed inside, failed in the sense, the jaws dropped, or butterflies in the stomach. All that situation happened with many, but one or two they showed, and rest was, it was just after the initial 1 minute, everything was very normal. You're simply talking to five people there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think at the end, what also matters is how you come out of it, right? And all three of you were very confident. All of you were on the top of your show and everything, which was commendable indeed. So continuing onwards, we have another question or a query, right? It says that what are the particular metrics to focus on? Do you keep certain numbers on your fingertips, so that you have to bring them out to the sharks?
It is to do with your business. Like Anish will have different metrics. Manas will have.
Right. But do you think metrics play an important role here, Manas? What if a presentation, which is without numbers at all? Do you think that would be?
No, there is no such presentation without numbers at all. There is no such presentation. If there are investors involved, then they will be definitely
numbers are there.
Numbers. And there are some fundamental things, and as the interest increased, the questions also will around the numbers also will increase. And now in the initial phase of the pitching, right, everyone will be thinking about, okay, should I invest? Now if they think that, okay, maybe I should, then the questions will be different. Then they will be going deep and deep into the numbers. Then there is a validation that they are seeking, right? So there is no such presentation without numbers. Everything, numbers will be there either, or as they peaked, the questions on the numbers will go up and up.
Right. Okay, so we have another question here. I think this is very direct from somebody who's planning to apply for or has already applied for the second edition of Shark Tanks, and they're asking that there is a second form in which they have to submit a 3 minutes video. Should it be the same as the final audition? Anish, what would your experience say?
Not necessarily, but do your best. You got a 3 minute window, you got a 3 minute video pitch to be done. Just your best need not necessarily be what you do in the final act in the time. But even today, I think I end up using the video that I recorded for various kinds of communication, either with external investors or potentially with business partners. I still use that video. So use that as an opportunity, possibly create an asset for the business.
Right. Okay, so we have another question from Abhishek, who says that while dealing with social startups, would investors have different perspectives vis-a-vis when they're investing in, say, a tech-based startup, or if it's a consumer brand? What would you go with, Abhilesh? Let's start with you. You're on mute.
Are looking for returns. So there are different types of investors, like I mentioned in the beginning. Purely financial investors, they need financial returns. There are people, there are organizations like NICE. You can go to. They have an investment arm. We got investments from NICE, where they look at the overall aspect of whether it is social, whether you're promoting Indian art, or whatever, cultural something. So there are different types of investors that are available. But as you grow, from your seed stage to further, then it is more to do with the numbers, more to do with the commercials there, the returns there. So that is because once you go to Series A and all, you're talking to the all the A-class VC firms there, where basic aim for them is to give profits to their LPs.
Right. Anish, what would you add to this?
I think fundamentally, regardless of the kind of business that you run, investors are investors for a reason. They are investing in the business for the end of a certain. So, fundamentally, investors don't necessarily view businesses from different sectors differently, but I think they use different lens and metrics to measure. And if social business has adequate opportunity for wealth for the investors,
I'm losing Anish in between. Is it the same for both of you, Abhilash?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Anish, you may just want to go audio.
Yeah, I've just switched off my video now. No, as I was saying, I think fundamentally investors are looking for returns within a certain stipulated period of time. Investors look at different kinds of businesses from different sectors, but what differs is the metrics or the KPIs that they use to kind of measure growth opportunities and the current traction in each of the categories, right? But I think investors are available for all kinds of businesses at the end.
Right. Manas, what about you? Something to add?
No, frankly speaking, I don't know whether they will look into a different perspective or not, because I have very little experience on that side.
Right. Okay, so I think we are on time here. We'll conclude by a last statement from all of you guys. What is your learning and your advice to the entrepreneurs, who are pitching to investors in Shark Tank and beyond? Abhilash, let's start with you again.
So Shark Tank, just don't think of the getting investments there. Try and create your pitch where you talk about your product, make it interesting. Because Sony TV also takes a decision. We were 198 of us who were shot. I mean, the shoot was done, but only 110 odd came on the TV. So try and make it interesting. Speak of your product because you're talking to TV audience there, 1 billion people or more. And of course, the other elements are as it is, your numbers and all that. You be very clear about those. When you go to the investors outside the tank, it's a whole different ball game. Like I mentioned, it matters a lot. The stage at which you are, what is your next 6 months goal or a year's goal? What is your roadmap? What do you want to do? And what type of investor you are pitching in front of? You would have to prepare the pitch. You have to change your pitch every single time. That's my advice.
Right. Manas?
Yeah, so you consider yourself as lucky that you are getting an opportunity to speak to
absolutely
a big audience and make the most out of it. When you know how you can make the most, when you start thinking at that level, what is the best way to say your story and real impact through that Shark Tank episode, right? So think in that line. This is a great opportunity. Don't miss it out for it.
Right. Anish, we'll have your closing statement. Though I think we've established it's an advertisement, but
so something which I have not spoken about earlier, right? I think we live in a funny country, right? Suddenly, the moment there is something that becomes successful, becomes aspirational, inherently we associate a certain degree of competition around it. Okay. And I think all of us have grown up, either competing in IIT JEE exams or for our B-school exams, or any other competitive exams. Suddenly there seems to be a mad scramble, and there is a certain degree of competitive exam spirit which has come into Shark Tank as well to an extent, right? And there are too many people who are looking for 101 ways to kind of hack Shark Tank. My only piece of advice, or I'm no one to give advice, to be very honest, but my only recommendation there is, yaar koi kunji nahi hai iski, right? So there is no cheat code, right, to crack this competitive exam. This is not a competitive exam. I think, as both Abhilesh and Manas spoke about earlier, this is the finest opportunity that you will get to showcase who you are, what your brand is, what your business is about. And hence, the most important thing I believe is being original, being authentic, being true to the reason why you have chosen to be in this business. And it is not about making or, appeasing some investors, because yes, of course, you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder, but always remember that at the end of the day, you were the first investor in your business, and you still remain the largest investor in your business. So think about the reason why you decided to choose, why you chose to invest your time, money, energy, blood, soil, blood and sweat into this business for so many years. And I think if you stay true to that, investments will happen, consumers will come, all of that will happen. But I think not a competitive exam, right? There is no way to hack this. Be original, be authentic. You're in your business is foremost investor. And by the way, something that not a lot of people think about. I always feel that more than the entrepreneur, more than the founder, the shark's job is a lot more tougher there. Imagine they have to decide whether they want to bet their hard-earned money on a founder, on a business or not, in a matter of what? An hour and a half, right? So pressure's on them as well, right? It's not just on you, right? So yeah, walk in with your head held high.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, all three of you. It was a really insightful session. And Anish, what you ended with, right? Giving a shark's perspective. That is also important to keep in mind. Be calm, be composed, be comprehensive, and be original. I think that's what it's all about. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much to all three of you for joining. And if you guys have any other questions, we'll have them write to you via email, and then you could respond to them for the benefit of our audiences, and then we'll publish it. We've published interviews with all three of them. Abhilesh's is a little dated, but Manas's and Anish's interview are very recent. Do check them out on NICE.org so you can get a more deeper perspective into their journey and their businesses. Thank you so much, everybody.
And I think, I remember, more importantly, please do visit our websites and do order our products as well, right? I think we make great banana chips, we get great potato chips. Ayurhythm is a fantastic app. Do download. And by the way, check out our dark chocolate cigars as well.
Wonderful. So
now that was a pitch. Now that was a pitch.
Have your kitchen. Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely chat.
Thanks, guys. Bye.